There is a story most men grow up believing, and it quietly shapes the way they approach women. The story says that female desire is like a switch. If you can just find the right words, the right move, the perfect moment, everything will click into place. Press the right button and attraction turns on. Miss it, and nothing happens. Men have approached relationships with this mindset. They search for techniques. They memorize lines. They try to become more attractive, more impressive, more persistent. They believe that if they simply do enough, say the right things, look the right way, behave the right way, they will eventually create desire. But that belief misunderstands how attraction actually works. Trying to force desire through effort alone is like pressing the gas pedal in a car while the parking brake is still engaged. You can push harder and harder, but the car will barely move. The engine strains, the tires resist, and frustration builds. The real problem isn't that you aren't pressing the accelerator hard enough. The problem is that something else is holding the system back. Understanding this shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of constantly asking how to create attraction, the smarter question becomes, what is preventing attraction from appearing in the first place? Human desire, especially in women, is influenced by two psychological forces working at the same time. One pushes forward, and the other holds back. Think of it as a system with two controls, an accelerator and a brake. The accelerator represents everything that sparks interest, curiosity, excitement, and connection. It responds to things like emotional tension, intrigue, chemistry, and shared experiences. These are the signals that encourage closeness and attraction. The brake represents the opposite side of the equation. It reacts to stress, pressure, discomfort, awkwardness, resentment, or emotional disconnection. When these signals appear, the brain becomes cautious. Instead of leaning toward intimacy, it pulls away. Most people focus only on the accelerator. They try to add more stimulation, more attention, more effort. But if the brake is still active, those efforts rarely work. Imagine trying to start a conversation with someone who is exhausted from work, worried about personal problems, or irritated after an argument. Even if your intentions are good, the environment isn't right. The brake system is active. Removing pressure often matters more than adding stimulation. This idea leads to a powerful shift in mindset. Instead of constantly trying to increase attraction, focus on removing the barriers that block it. When stress decreases, when the atmosphere feels comfortable, when emotional tension disappears, the mind becomes open again. Another common misunderstanding happens because men and women often experience desire differently. For many men, attraction appears quickly and spontaneously. A glance, a smile, a moment of visual interest can trigger immediate desire. It feels sudden and direct. But research has shown that many women experience attraction in a more contextual and responsive way. Instead of appearing instantly, it often develops through interaction and emotional connection. Think of it like heating water on a stove. The warmth builds gradually. The environment, the conversation, and the emotional tone all contribute to the process. This difference creates confusion in relationships. A man might assume that if she doesn't immediately show interest, she isn't attracted. But sometimes, the situation simply hasn't reached the right emotional temperature yet. Context matters more than many people realize. The same person can feel completely different depending on the circumstances surrounding the interaction. Imagine two scenarios involving the same couple. In one situation, the environment feels tense. There are unresolved frustrations, distractions from work, or lingering stress from the day. Even small gestures of affection might feel unwelcome because the emotional atmosphere is heavy. In another situation, the environment feels calm and connected. There is laughter, ease, and a sense of presence. The exact same gestures can suddenly feel meaningful and exciting. The difference isn't the individuals involved, it's the context surrounding them. That is why memorable experiences often happen when daily pressures disappear. During vacations, celebrations, or spontaneous adventures, the mind relaxes and the brake system temporarily releases. Of course, real life cannot always resemble a vacation. Responsibilities, schedules, and stress are unavoidable parts of everyday life, but the lesson remains valuable. Emotional context influences attraction more than many people realize. Another paradox appears when we talk about safety and excitement. In relationships, people often seek emotional security. They want to feel respected, understood, and comfortable around someone. Safety allows trust to grow. Yet attraction also thrives on a sense of energy, mystery, and unpredictability. When everything becomes completely routine, excitement fades. Healthy relationships balance both elements. They provide stability without becoming stagnant. Think of it like a roller coaster. The ride feels thrilling because there is movement and anticipation, but the safety structure ensures that the experience remains controlled. Without safety, the ride would feel dangerous. Without excitement, it would feel boring. The same principle applies to human connection. Confidence plays an important role here. A confident person tends to make decisions clearly, communicate directly, and remain calm in uncertain situations. This stability creates an environment where others feel comfortable. At the same time, confidence often carries a sense of independence. A person with their own goals, interests, and passions brings energy into a relationship. They are not relying entirely on another person for validation. This combination, stability and independence, creates a powerful dynamic. Another area where misunderstanding occurs involves physical signals of attraction. People sometimes assume that physical responses automatically reflect emotional feelings. But human biology is not always that simple. Emotional interest and physical reactions can move at different speeds. Sometimes, someone may feel emotionally connected before their body reflects that feeling. Other times, the body reacts to stimuli while the mind remains uncertain. This complexity is why communication and awareness are essential in relationships. Paying attention to emotional cues matters just as much as noticing physical ones. Connection happens when both mind and body align. Creating that alignment requires patience and attention. Small interactions throughout the day often matter more than dramatic gestures. A thoughtful comment, a shared laugh, a moment of genuine presence. These subtle signals gradually shape the emotional atmosphere between two people. Many people assume romance begins at a specific moment. In reality, it often begins long before that. The conversations earlier in the day, the way someone listens, the respect they show in ordinary situations. These things quietly build the foundation for deeper connection later. Think of attraction like a slow-building fire, rather than a sudden explosion. It begins with small sparks, curiosity, eye contact, playful conversation. As those sparks accumulate, warmth grows. Rushing the process can extinguish the flame instead of strengthening it. Patience allows the energy to develop naturally. There is also an interesting psychological dynamic related to feeling desired. Many people, men and women alike, respond strongly to the feeling of being appreciated and wanted. When someone looks at you with genuine admiration, it can amplify your own sense of confidence. But this feeling becomes powerful only when it comes from someone whose opinion you respect. Attention from anyone can feel pleasant. Attention from someone who carries confidence, purpose, and independence feels much more meaningful. This is why self-development matters in relationships. When someone builds a fulfilling life, pursuing goals, maintaining friendships, developing skills, they naturally carry a sense of value into their interactions. Their attention becomes something worth receiving, not something they are desperately trying to give away. Another common mistake occurs when people try to imitate behaviors they believe are attractive, rather than cultivating genuine qualities. Confidence cannot be convincingly acted. It grows from experience, discipline, and self-respect. When someone feels secure in their own direction, their interactions become more relaxed. They don't need to chase approval because they already value themselves. That calm energy often becomes one of the most attractive traits a person can possess. In contrast, desperation tends to create pressure. When someone approaches interactions with the mindset that they must succeed at all costs, every moment becomes tense. Conversations feel forced. Small setbacks feel overwhelming. Ironically, this pressure activates the same psychological brakes that reduce attraction. Relaxation, curiosity, and playfulness create a far more inviting environment. Think of it this way. Connection is not something you extract from another person. It's something you create together. Instead of treating attraction like a puzzle to solve, treat it like a shared experience to explore. Pay attention to the emotional environment. Notice what increases comfort and what creates tension. Develop your own life so that your presence adds energy rather than seeking it. Respect the natural pace at which interest grows. When these principles align, attraction often appears without forcing it. The goal is not to manipulate someone's emotions or bypass their boundaries. Genuine connection always requires mutual interest and respect. Understanding human psychology simply helps people communicate more effectively and avoid the mistakes that create unnecessary distance. Most importantly, remember that relationships are not competitions or strategies. They are partnerships between individuals who choose to spend time together because it enriches their lives. When attraction is built on curiosity, respect, and shared experience, it becomes something far more meaningful than a temporary spark. It becomes a connection that grows naturally over time. And that kind of connection is far more powerful than anything that can be forced. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, tell me your opinion in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.